what do we have here? This is a 1955 John Deere 50 row crop tractor. It was my wife's grandpa's. My father-in-law gave it to me, and I've used it off and on since he has. And I've done repairs to it along the way. Recent ones were exhaust manifold, exhaust pipe. These cracked out. I put a good generator on it so it would charge. Trying to think what else I've done to it. I did put those 3-point arms on the back. I made this weight rack for the front of it. I used to pull a disc behind it that was a little heavy off the 3-point, I guess. That's why they put the weight rack on there. I found all this stuff secondhand, put it on there. But I guess what are we doing to it today? Well, I use this tractor every year. I plant a little bit of sweet corn alongside my house, and I use this to plant it and cultivate it. And it's just, you know, it's an old tractor, so it's had things go wrong with it slowly over time. But what I need to do is I went to start it to pull it in, and I got nothing going to the starter, even with the jump pack hooked up. So I guess I did put a battery box in it at one point in time too. As you can see, it's a little brighter than everything else. But I need to pull this cover off, take a look at the starter, see what's going on there. I've actually got a new fuel bowl for it because this one's got a bad habit of draining fuel into the crankcase and diluting the oil. Hence why there's a little valve there to shut it off. Might not even have gas in it. Doesn't look like there's much. I can see a little bit in the bottom. But other things I need to do is it always lets these arms bleed off. I've been inside there. I rebuilt that cylinder that shoves it back and forth, and that didn't make any difference. I've rebuilt the O-rings on this thing where the, I don't know what these are called, plugs go in there. That didn't make any difference. It only bleeds off when the tractor's running. If you shut it off with something in the air, never comes down at all. But to be real honest, I'm kind of sick of it. So I got on eBay and I found a whole nother Power Trol, supposedly a good one. I'm hoping I can put that thing on there, gets rid of my problems. There's a whole bunch of gaskets underneath there for it. There's some new spark plugs. I picked up an oil filter today. We got plenty of stuff to do. So I need to get this ready, put some corn up and just kind of do some maintenance on it. It's a spring, it's time to have it ready to go. So let's get after it. All right, how about an update? We went ahead, cleaned up the new Power Trol in the parts washer. Here's the old one off there. Here's the old one off of there. We still need to pull the handle off. Oh, and probably this little deal that holds your block off pins when they're not in there. That'd be ready to go on. Went in and pulled the seat off. That's simple, it's just 4 bolts. Take the battery out and they're right underneath there. This is where the Power Trol came from. But we went ahead, pulled the PTO box off. These 3 bolts are from the front coming back, and the rest are from the back going forward. You can see that that oil in there needed changed. It had some water in it apparently. I'm going to pull that back of the housing off there next. You can see the bolts down in there. I think there's 6 or 5 of them, something like that. I want to get it off of there. And then the next housing behind it. And the reason for that is I have this gasket here, this big one that I want to put in. I can't remember if it was leaking from underneath or if I was wondering if that's where I was bleeding off fluid. That doesn't really make a lot of sense now, but I've got all the parts, so if you're going to New York, you don't stop in Chicago, so we might as well keep pulling this shit off. The other things that I need to pull off, these old angle iron plates can come off. I don't use them for anything. I think they had a sickle mower hooked up to them at one point. I'm not very sure. But I can't decide. I'll damn sure have to pull the 3-point arms off. And I can't decide if I want to mess with handling that housing. Probably not. I will probably back this thing up under the jib crane, put me some picking eyes there, and then swing that off. Might as well instead of trying to hurt myself. But I'm going to get this box off and out of my way and maybe work on the next one. Things I need to look for. I need to look for a seal, or behind that, a starter. And it actually started working, but it's not working very good. I need to figure out the different kinds of fluids in these different boxes. I got that back housing off of there. I've got everything else draining. So everything else is in the parts washer, but I got to get ready to go. So that's enough for this afternoon, and we'll try to get back on it tomorrow. All right, guys, what the heck happened? I tore a bunch of stuff off the tractor. This piece here, 3-point arms or rock shafts, whatever you want to call, come out through there. This whole thing slapped up just like that. It had this little gear pump bolted onto here. That guy bolted onto there. Inside of there is a piston. It can't come out the other side. That's just a bucket, basically. That piston pushes on that rod, which rotates the rock shafts. This thing has leaked down for forever. I finally broke it down far enough to tear into this. I've had this piston out and put a new seal on it, and that didn't make any difference. Maybe a little, but not enough. But this time, I tore that gasket off here, and I wish I would have kept it to show you, but it came in several pieces. But it was broken right in between here. Fluid goes down here, goes down the side of this tube. You can see kind of where my finger's pointing. And then it pushes this piston back. So if fluid was able to leak out here instead of go into there, then that's what's letting this piston fall. I almost guarantee it. But that's the passage between here and here. So I hauled this piece into work today, ran it through the parts washer, cleaned up pretty good. I got all these surfaces clean. I do not have the gasket for here. I've got some material I'm gonna make my own. I am going to silicone either side of this thing because I want it to seal very good and I don't want to take this stuff off again. This scavenger pump, or whatever it is, it's a gear pump, but I'm not real sure why it's in there. I don't even know what it does, but the PTO shaft drives it. Maybe it oils things inside the transmission. Not really sure, but there was no gasket in between there. And I don't even know if I'm gonna silicone it or not. But there's two seals Looks like they're double stacked to me right there. I've got 2 of them on order. When they get here, I will drive these ones out and I'm gonna put them in, put this all back together. They'll be here tomorrow. Put everything back on there. I've got a new gasket for here and gaskets to build everything the rest of the way out. So that's where I'm at right now. It's moving along nicely. I got a few more parts to clean up in the parts washer. But once I get all that done, and I've still got to mess with that starter. Those starters are very expensive. It was like $550 for a remand one. And I am not excited about somebody else remanding a starter for me. It seems like a lot of times you just end up with junk. So, not trying to brag or anything, but I decided to order a rebuild kit and try it myself. It may turn out like crap, but at least I will be the one that's controlling the outcome on this scenario. So, it's all moving along nicely. I still got to do the fuel bowl, but that's where I'm at. I'll bring you guys back when I know more. So this is the one I need to make a new gasket for. This is the material I have. It came out of a Felpro kit. What I am going to do is tap this gasket out. Get you a small ball peen hammer. Go all the way around this edge, holding it in the same spot, and you should be able to cut all these dimensions out right off the top edge of this thing. Maybe not this one, but these ones here that are real sharp on the corners, they'll cut it out just fine. I'll show you guys what I do here in a second. Hardest part is just holding it in the same place the whole time. Just kind of get it close to the edge so I don't waste a bunch of material. And you just start tapping along here. See if you guys can see what's going on. See how it's just cutting it off there? That's all you gotta do. And when you get to where a hole is, just use the peening side of the ball peen. Just knock her through there. I'll bring you back when it's done. There it is. I was able to tap that whole entire gasket out. There's a little bit of jagged edge on there, but it's nothing that it's gonna hurt on something like this. And if you don't like it, then go along here and trim that off or sand it off or something. But that makes a pretty darn nice gasket, and it's a lot easier than trying to figure out where to trace this stuff out on there. So let's put her back together. It's a new evening in the shop. Got some seals for this guy. I don't know for sure if there's 2 of them in there. It just looks to me like they're double stacked. You guys can kind of see in there. I've got parts everywhere for the 50 strung out. So I'm gonna get these hammered home. I'll put that guy back on this plate. I'd sealed up that guy on there last night, new gasket, silicone. So now let's get this next one on there. And then I can put the gasket on here, probably on the back of the tractor, honestly, and clamp it back up there. Start going back together. So this seal was kind of a weird guy. Fat. Got 2 different sealing surfaces in it. Never seen anything like that, but I just pounded them both in there. I'm sure it'll be fine. This pump feeds oil right into here around that spinning PTO shaft. So this is just to hold the oil back in there. And I assume it's just to keep that oiled, so if you run it a lot. But anyways, I'm sure it'll be fine. Okay, that's stabbed back on there. Everything's wired back up, so the bolts don't come loose. Plus they've got Loctite on them this go around. I don't imagine they had Loctite in 1955. But, so those should not come out of there. Let's silicone this, put that gasket on there, and then we will stab this guy. So I was having a hard time getting the PTO shaft lined up down under here and get it to pin on there. I really needed to spin that while it was held in place. So I cut the heads off a couple bolts, 1/2-inch bolts, to imitate this, but it should give me some dowels I can line up, get everything put in where it needs to be, put some other bolts in, then back these out by hand and put the real ones in. So let's give that a try. That was the ticket. Got all these started now. I'm gonna snug a few of them up and I'll just back these out. Nothing to it. Couple more pieces. This back case, there's 6 bolts goes around here, little metal tabs that fold over on the edge. And then the PTO linkage here. If you're worried about how it splines into this piece, there's a cotter pin hole through here, so it can only go in 2 ways, be forward or straight back, and it's supposed to stick forward, that arm there. So need to put a cotter pin in here, gasket on here, and get ready to stab that clutch for the PTO back in here. I'm not really looking forward to that because there's a lot of things to line up. So I might try it before I put the gasket on, just to make sure it's gonna work. There's a couple brass pieces that go in here that the clutch rides on, one on both sides. Well, I hammered on it some more today. I finally got this PTO housing put back in. You have to line up all those clutch plates as you push this thing in, and it was an extreme pain. I would recommend, if you don't need to take this off for any reason, leave it on there. Take this whole housing in one unit. I got my new Power Trol valve on there. I put some quick connects on the side since it already had some 90s put in place. I got my 3-point arms bolted back on there. I adjusted them up a little so they're a little higher off the ground just by turning these 2 turnbuckles. I got the hard lines plumbed in both sides. Put back into the pump up here. That's all tight. Floor pan's back on there. About the only thing left on the back end is the seat, linkage for the PTO, top link, and the drawbar. But I want to drop the drawbar frame and then take these 2 pieces of angle iron off. The bolts are kind of blocked right now, and I need to do some welding up on the front end of it. But that'll be a project probably for tomorrow or next week. We'll see how it goes. I got to get out of here this afternoon, but I guess I'll see you guys on the next one. I really appreciate you watching, and have a good week.